All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Brandon Peterson, the board vice president for InnEdCO.
I'm Linda Horn. I'm also on the board.
And we're so glad you're here. It's Wednesday and it's time to grow. And I'm just super excited. So welcome to the InnEdCO Summer Series for Wednesday. Feel free to use the hashtag InnEdCO2020 to tweet all of your wonderful ideas. And we see a lot of great chatter in the YouTube channel as well. See lots of cool, familiar faces, and we're super excited you're here. Want to give a huge hashtag thank you to Google. They've been one of our huge, I would call them powerhouse sponsors. They are providing 50 Google Level 1 certifications and 50 Google Level 2 certifications. Thank you. For all of our folks. So we've already been we gave out 10 of each yesterday and 10 of each on Monday. So make sure to be checking our reflection and recap email to see if your name is on there, and we'll be reaching out. I will personally actually be reaching out to a lot of folks earlier or later today to get those codes to you. But thank you to Google. They actually are helping us run this live stream right now and giving us great access to some amazing tools that districts can use to help run virtual conferences such as this. I also want to give a huge shout out to Nearpod and Sphero for their support. They're our huge sponsors for Wednesday, and we could not have done it without sponsors like them. They provided money to offset the costs associated with running a virtual conference, and in turn, that made it free for all of you. So we're super excited we did not have to ask any teachers to pay to attend our summer series. So super thankful for them. If you don't have a Sphero yet, you should definitely go get one. They're super fun. And thanks to our other sponsors like Camcor, ClassLink, Hapara, Mackin, Overdrive, Promethean, Pear Deck, and Read Naturally. They've given some incredible prizes and just, again, some resources for us so that this conference didn't cost anybody anything. So thanks to all of them. And speaking of, I already mentioned the prizes, but we're giving out more prizes today. I believe we have another Pear Deck Premium for a full year. And we have more Google certifications available. And we also have, thanks to Overdrive, a Sora prize pack. So that'll be super exciting. So I know Liz Walhoff is super excited about that. So we'll be giving out a ton of cool prizes today. So again, the ways to win prizes: you can tweet, you can chat in YouTube Live, and you can be active in any of our sessions. So the more you contribute and the more you stand out, the easier it is for us to find your name. So that's the great thing. So we'll be sending out more prizes later today.
One of the new things that we started this year, thanks to our new board member, Maria Garcia, is our We Are InnEdCO Podcast. So it is our official InnEdCO Podcast. You can listen to it on anchor.fm. You can also find it anywhere that you get your podcast. It's the We Are InnEdCO. And we would really love for you to share your stories so that we can have your voice and your stories reflected in this podcast. To do that, you would go to weare@innedco.org, or you can call us at the number that's right there and share your stories. One of the great things is Dr. Kati Marton's keynotes from Monday and Tuesday are actually already on that podcast, so you can hear those again. And again, share your stories. We would love to hear from you. So we have trivia going on. It's an asynchronous trivia game for InnEdCO 2020. So if you want to play, you can win prizes. Go to kahoot.it and put in the code that's right here and winners will be announced on Thursday. And just so you know, the questions are pretty challenging. So if you really want to challenge yourself and win some great prizes on Thursday, play our asynchronous trivia.
It's all useless trivia. And the average score has been about 32%. So we feel kind of proud about it. So yeah,
and
but good luck.
And that's sponsored by ClassLink.
All right, memberships. So in case you miss a part of this week, which I did because I was in another session and I got a little bit of FOMO for not being in the other one with the fabulous folks from St. Brain Online. You can become a premium member today for $40. It's not a whole lot. And there's information on that on our website at innedco.org. And all of the content and sessions that we're providing this week are being captured so that you can view them just like you would on your DVR. So we'll be able to have all of this content and more on our website. But for that, you're going to want to become a premium membership. Plus, the cool thing about being a premium member is that you get 10% off of future events that we do with InnEdCO. So that's a really cool perk of it. The $40 almost pays itself off.
So if you need, pardon me, if you need graduate credits for this, you can get them through Adams State. If you go to the InnEdCO Summer Series website, there's information on how to do that. It is $55. There are some independent learning options that are needed in order to get that credit, but you can get that credit through Adams State by going to the Summer Series website. So we are happy to say that we have opportunities for some of you to join our board. It's also bittersweet and sad because that means a couple of the great people we get to work with aren't going to be there. But if you are interested in volunteering to join the board, you just go to the bit.ly that's there, bit.ly-join InnEdCO Board, and let us know that you're interested. So my personal experience is this is an amazing group of people, and they go the extra mile to support educators and students across Colorado. So if you love InnEdCO and this InnEdCO family, and you want to give back and take on more of a leadership role, this is a great opportunity for you to share your passions and talents, and we really want you to apply.
Yeah, and don't feel like if you're like just a teacher, which is the worst thing you could ever say. But if you do feel like just a teacher, we would really encourage you to apply as well. It's a really great opportunity to have a variety of folks, from district coaches to curriculum coordinators to even teachers. We'd love for anyone and everyone to apply. It's a really fun opportunity to get involved, not only with the conference, but many of the other things we're doing, such as like our new series, virtual opportunities, and there's even a lot of membership opportunities and chapter events that we're looking at running as well. So don't feel like very afraid to apply, because we'd love for everybody to join us. It's a really fun time too. So it's really rewarding to be a board member.
Yeah.
All right, so for today, we are excited once again to welcome Dr. Kati Marton to the virtual stage. So she'll be doing a keynote, and our theme today is grow. So I'm really excited on the sessions as well, because I think they'll line up really well with how we left yesterday with experience. A lot of teachers were looking for ways to grow over the summer, or just how do I build a community with our students, and how did other folks do that? And so I'm really excited for today's two session opportunities, because they're going to do that really well. So you'll look at building a community and connections in a digital world as session option 1, and session option 2 will be student-centered learning and design thinking in a digital environment. So for some of you folks that were even looking for like a structure that's really awesome to use with your students, you may want to attend that session as well. So some awesome opportunities today.
So tomorrow, we're going to be having time to reflect and celebrate with each other in smaller groups, so that you get to know people that are in your area that are interested in doing more things with InnEdCO and doing further learning and just building our community. So that programming will be tomorrow.
Yeah, we're super excited for it. And I also saw some questions in the YouTube chat around like, how do we get on the email list? How do we stay involved with InnEdCO? I should have mentioned this during the prizes part. Make sure you're registered for this week's conference on Eventbrite. So if you go to Eventbrite and look for InnEdCO's summer series, the registration link is also on our website, which is bit.ly/InnEdCO2020. You can go there, and if you're just registered, we'll make sure that you're on our email list. You can also join our email list on the front page of our regular website, InnEdCO.org. So there's a lot of ways to join our mail list, but I really do love that you all want to stay involved, and we want to keep you connected. So thank you to those of you that were pointing that out. I also wanted to take a quick minute to just thank all of our previous board members and all of our board members that are here today and that have made this conference what it is. We can't do it without any of them, and it's great to have that community. So if you are a board member or you're an alumni, give a huge shout out in the YouTube chat. So I saw a few of you folks there. I know like Kelly Sane is lurking and a few other folks. So we just want to say thank you to all of our board. Sheila's already talking away, and We've got Jennifer Frost as well, who's our support associate. We could not do anything in this organization without her. She's an amazing, amazing resource for us and keeps us moving along, especially me. So thank you to everyone, and major props to the InnEdCO board and alumni.
So, pardon me. I am so glad to have the honor of introducing Dr. Kati Marton. She's the author of Learner-Centered Innovation and the Vice President of Professional Learning at Altitude Learning. So we're so grateful that she's been able to spend her mornings with us this week. And between all the tweets using the hashtag InnEdCO 2020 and the conversations that have been had in the reflection sessions, it's obvious that her messages are really resonating with our InnEdCO family. I can't wait to see how her message today sparks our thinking on how we're going to move forward. And so now it is my pleasure and honor to hand it over to Dr. Kati Marton.
Thank you, Linda. I'm so honored to be here again. It has been really fun to spend my mornings with the InnEdCO crew. And I don't know, I think I'm going to be missing all of you tomorrow. I might want to jump into your celebrations. Today's focus is on grow. And I just want to acknowledge that I am a little anxious because knowing that we're here to grow, I really have been thinking and doing a lot of reflecting on my own experiences. It's way easier to talk about my kids and to share the things that they're doing. But I really felt it was important today to talk a little bit about my own experience and my own reflections and how I have grown and show up there for you guys as well so that we could all continue to learn together and grow. And I'm a big believer that if I am asking other people to do things, that I should be the one to go first and share my own thinking. So I'm going to share my screen again. Give me just a second. Today, really looking at the focus of how can we be the good? And I don't know if you can see behind me, this is a quote I keep on my wall to remind me, be the good, but also we have to believe that there is good in the world. And I think that's just so, so important. So as we kind of kick off today, let me get oriented here, apologies. I want to start off by sharing my own experience. And, you know, it starts off when I went to my 10-year reunion, I was voted most changed in high school. Or since high school. And at this point, I had just gotten married. I was living in Hawaii. I was teaching and loving my job, loving what I did. I had just got my master's and I was on course to get my PhD. And people thought I wasn't expecting that. So loving my job, being successful, it turns out that not many people expected that of me. And if you remember yesterday, I talked about my third grade reading habits and how I didn't love reading and how I didn't read a book throughout high school. Well, you can imagine that didn't really set me on the trajectory to be the valedictorian. I was definitely not the girl that, you know, was finishing all my classes, getting, you know, A's and AP courses. I strove to get B's because that's what I had to get to keep my insurance. My parents made me get a B average because that's what the state of California says to have reduced rates on insurance. So that was my motivation because I wanted to be able to have my freedom to go hang out with my friends. And as long as I didn't get in trouble and I kept my B average, my parents thought I was doing just fine. And that's kind of what I set out to do. So I think about how this influenced me, and I kind of been reflecting on my own experiences around how I saw myself and how I viewed my own potential, I think. And my best friend growing up was Michelle, and we were together all the time. And I remember we did everything together except in school because she was in the GATE classes, the gifted and talented. And so I remember being acutely aware of the opportunities that Michelle had. She would go to these classes with all the best teachers. They would do projects. She was totally engaged and loved school. And in my classes, it was sit there, finish the work, do the worksheet. And I mean, I had good teachers and I enjoyed it, but I was acutely aware of the difference and just the expectation of gate kids versus the rest of us. And when I saw the things she was doing, I realized she was smart. And what I thought was I was not smart. And so I'm thinking about how this really impacted my own belief in myself and my view of what I could do in school and otherwise. And I mean, a lot of people just kind of expected me to go through the motions, and frankly, that's just what I did. So recently, I was reflecting with a colleague of mine, and they asked me to share kind of my trajectory from middle school to high school. As a previous middle school teacher, it's such a critical point as we think about these transitions. And as you all know, Abby just finished elementary school yesterday. And so I'm also acutely aware of this transition from elementary to middle school and how it impacts kids. So when I was in 6th grade, I was able to be in some advanced, I had tested into these advanced classes for math. So Michelle must have worn off on me at some level. And so I started going to a separate class for math. And by the time I was in 8th grade, I had finished pre-algebra, which in many cases is pretty common now, I think. But in the 90s, that wasn't the norm. It was a separate class. And so I liked math. I felt like I was challenged. And I finally thought like, hey, I'm in these like good, cool classes. And this is fun. And then I ended up going to my counselor in this transition from middle school to high school. And my counselor said to me, you know, high school is going to be really challenging, Katie. It's going to be a place where you're learning new things and it's going to be, you know, social, new pressures. You should probably just take pre-algebra again. And I totally trusted my counselor and thought, of course, I'll just do that. I'll take pre-algebra again. And then we looked at my Spanish courses, and I had finished Spanish 2, 3, I think. And she said the same thing. Why don't we just take Spanish 1, 2 again? It's much harder in high school. You're just going to have to go through. And I said, I totally trust you. I get it. And so I ended up going in, and this ended up setting me on a course to be in a lower level path than I was set up to be in middle school. And so I went through the motions. I took the math classes, the lowest level that was expected. And by the time I was a junior, my counselor said, you finished all the math courses you need. And I was like, great. And they said, do you either want to take an additional math class or take the period off? And I was like, the genius 17-year-old I thought, of course, I'll take the period off. Why not hang out with my friends? I'll get out of school early. I was working. And so I decided to do that. Everyone thought that was fine. I had all the credits I needed. Well, when it came to apply to the college of my dreams, I wasn't eligible because I hadn't taken that advanced class. And I totally own that I didn't realize that was something I needed to do. Thank you to all the school counselors who help kids realize that now. But I wasn't able to go to this college because I hadn't taken the right classes. And so I think about how much that impacted me. And what if I had been pushed? What if I had been aware of these opportunities and being able to take those classes, other opportunities that it would have presented to me? Now, in the long run, I am totally happy with it because I went to a very average state college, but I had amazing teachers that actually helped me see that I loved learning, not to take a test, not for a specific class, but because learning is amazing and it can provide us so many opportunities. But the reason I share these stories is not just to talk about what classes kids could take, but I want us to realize, and I am aware of this too, that our own implicit bias, our stereotypes, our expectations of people really impact trajectories. And as I shared yesterday, believing in kids matters. And when we set our expectations high and we help kids set those expectations high too, we can open up their world of possibility. And so the way that we see ourselves, and I know that my counselors and teachers believed in me. I know that they cared and wanted the best for me. So they were saying, oh, don't challenge yourself because it's going to be hard, because they didn't want me to struggle. But instead, like we talked about yesterday, how can we allow people to really understand what's possible and go through struggle and realize that struggle is part of it that's going to make it better, not hold people back from things that are going to be hard. So this is hard and it's uncomfortable, but I'm going to share some things that I've heard people say, that I've experienced myself. And these are some common assumptions that are often made and we don't even realize it. So this first one is, in small classes, they aren't the first to raise their hand. They must not be that smart. And of course you're saying, I wouldn't say that. But Zach's first grade teacher, who I know loves him dearly, said to me, Katie, Zach is really creative and smart, but he's never the first person to respond. And I'm afraid that people won't think he's very smart. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. And it's heartbreaking. And I don't think Zach should change. I think the system and our views should change to embrace all kids who are smart. The second one is they aren't always the first to answer. They're always the first to answer. They must be really smart. We assume the first person to answer has the best answer. Not always true. Very often not true. He has terrible handwriting. He must not be putting in enough effort or must not care. And so I think that that's really important too, is like, how do we make assumptions about people's handwriting or their appearances? They don't do homework. They must not care about succeeding in life or school. This is too hard for these kids. Let's make it easier. Or she's a girl. She can't do advanced math. Those kids are smart. They need a challenge. So I want to put these out there to really help us think about what are the assumptions that we make about kids? What are the assumptions we make about groups that really need to be challenged so that we can really see who they are and what's possible, not group people by how they look or how they respond. So I want to share this study, and I put it up here just to make sure I shared the whole study. But there was a Harvard professor, Robert Rosenthal, who performed this experiment on expectations and how they affect performance. So initially, elementary school teachers were told that they could determine the student's IQ if they were about to increase rapidly. And then these students were randomly selected to a group as potential growth. And then the students' real IQs were tested at the beginning of the year, as well at the end of the year. So any guesses of what's going to happen? I'll show you. So in these groups, if teachers had been led to expect greater gains, then increasingly those kids gained more IQ points. So it is this belief that we talked about yesterday. When we believe in students and we set them up for success by showing them what's possible and showing them and believing in them, they rise to those expectations. Similarly, when we don't believe in kids and we don't think that they can do it, they know that and they see that and they don't try as hard, or they don't see that that's their own potential. And so I think these things are really important, again, to see I see lots of comments, oh my gosh, I had that experience, or I didn't realize. We often think, and I thought this too, I'm not going to share this because this is just me. I obviously wasn't good enough. And then I read books like by Michelle Obama, and she was saying that her college counselor also didn't think she was good enough to go to Princeton. And she clearly proved her wrong. And I started reading more and more that this wasn't just a phenomenon that I was experiencing by myself. It was something that many people experience because of our expectations and beliefs about what groups of people or individuals can do. So this is, again, part of our time together has been about reflection and experience. And so this quote has been really guiding me through this pandemic, especially. And it's a reminder that we have to shake things up in order to change and evolve. And so without order, nothing exists. Our systems have existed for so long because there have been structures and things that keep them in place and keep us moving forward. But sometimes those inhibit our growth. So in the midst of chaos where we are, there's an opportunity to evolve and grow and think about how we can, like that quote about the pandemic, how we can leave some things behind in the old world and how we can dream and create our new world moving forward. So I have 4 things that I've been really thinking about, 4 ways that we can grow as educators. And the first one is to really reflect on your own bias. The second is to set high expectations for all. And the third, create an inclusive community where all learners are valued. And number 4, challenge the status quo. So here we go. First one is just really reflecting. And again, I mentioned our brains are hardwired to generalize, and it's, to make sense of the world. It doesn't mean that you are a bad person if you understand, and oh my gosh, like I've had that bias, or I've grouped kids. You're not a bad person. It means that you need to think about, and once we're aware, we can start to grow and start to acknowledge those biases and shift our practices. So I ground myself often in this view of what I want for kids and why I teach. And it's so important to think about why you got into this profession, why you're still here. And those things have to ground us as we move forward and grow. And what do we want for kids? What are the things that we truly believe? And how do we continue to think about our own practices so that we can get closer to that vision? For me, and us at Altitude, we really focus on these 3 outcomes. And they're big, but really understanding learner agency, who kids are, what their strengths are, what their goals are, and how we can help them grow. Collaboration, thinking about being a global citizen, working together. If you have these skills, but you can't work with other people, and you don't have the emotional intelligence and flexibility to work well with others, you're gonna be halted in your opportunities to do things that really matter. And then this third focus is on real world problem solving. If we know who we are and we have these skills, collaborate with others, we can put them into practice by really solving real world problems that matter. And that involves our critical thinking and creativity and innovation, and these opportunities to apply our knowledge in new and novel situations that really help us solve problems that matter. The key here is really understanding that perfection is the enemy of progress. And as we grow and learn, the goal to be perfect is never going to serve us or our students. And thinking about how we can always be progressing and growing and improving rather than showing up and pretending to be perfect, because that's a fallacy and it doesn't exist. There is no perfect in the world. So this is a reminder that I always kind of lean back on, that our learning for us as educators and for our students as well, our learning is a process. It is not an event. It is not going to change your life because you sat here in this conference today or even these 3 days. It is not going to change, but it is a process and part of your journey. And if you take these ideas and nuggets and think and reflect and start putting them into practice and helping kids learn and think differently, that is all part of the process to grow and evolve. So if we're aware and we are thinking about our own bias and we're intentionally creating new and better opportunities for our kids, it's really important to set high expectations. And I've been hearing a lot lately. Someone told me yesterday in really good faith, we didn't ask all of our kids to read a book during the pandemic remote instruction because not all kids had access. And so if you think about that, oftentimes we talk about it that's equity, but really that's not equity at the highest level. That's not the high expectations. Setting a high expectation is we're all going to read a book. And for those kids who can't get it, we are going to work to get them that book and resources instead of holding everybody back because a few kids can't do something. And so same things in our classrooms and our practices. Let's hold those expectations high and help people get to them, not hold them back because we think that they can't do it. So I had the opportunity to listen in because they were remote on SEEK's proposal or portfolio defenses for 8th graders. And what is really, really amazing about this school, it's called the School for Sustainability and Sustainability. It's in Hawaii and it's a charter school. And they have these four or five skills that they focus on for all kids: reasoning analytically, thinking systemically, collaborating productively, managing effectively, and communicating powerfully. And these are their expectations and skills they focus on for all kids. but they know that kids are going to show up and share these in different ways. And so they have portfolios that help kids capture evidence of these skills. And then they have a defense where students share this. And in the 3 different defenses that I listened to, kids were sharing each of these skills and the really unique way that they had mastered these throughout their middle school journey. But when I talk about high expectations, the powerful piece for me is a lot of times we say, oh, they tried, good, let's pass them on. I just want to give them credit because we think that they tried hard, and we don't want to be critical of people or even give that critical feedback. But what I witnessed is there was a group of people who cared about this one student. She went through for 15 minutes and did her defense, and you could tell she was so thoughtful, creative, and she was a really high-performing student. But her portfolio defense didn't showcase the best of her. She had kind of pulled it together at the last minute and didn't have the visuals that described what she was talking about, and she didn't quite meet the rubric. It would have been really easy just to pass her on and let her go. But when we debriefed with the mentors and the panel, they all said that wasn't her best work. She's capable of more. And so what we did is we went back and gave her feedback, specific, kind, helpful, critical feedback of how she could improve. And this team said, we think this is going to build her confidence, not because she didn't pass, but because we're going to give her an opportunity to be even better. And these are the types of things we need to do for kids. We need to set those expectations really high. We need to support them to get there. And then we need to give them critical feedback, and we need to mentor and guide them so that they can be the best version of themselves and have the confidence that they're able to show up and do things in ways that make them proud, and that they show up for their community as well. And I just thought that was such a great example. And if we're really going to move into a world where we can do portfolio defenses and help kids be the best version of themselves, rather than just focus on standardized testing, we have to be able to show that we have high expectations and that we believe kids can get there. It also shows that, our kids can show up and do amazing things. And so when we tell learners to complete an assignment, we're often going to get compliance. And people are very compliant. Many people are happy to show up. You have those kids who say, just give me the worksheet. It's so much easier. And it is. But when we empower learners to explore and learn how to make an impact on the world, that's when we really get to inspire problem solvers and innovators. And that's when people struggle. And that's when people don't always have one right answer. But that's where we get the best learning and creativity, is when we create these opportunities and help people through that struggle. So the third piece is really about creating inclusive and equitable learning environments. And I think this is absolutely critical right now. And I want to show a video of what this might look like in some learning communities. Takes a minute, sorry. All right, let's.
I used to be a very traditional chemistry teacher, but I moved into project-based learning. It is a lot more work, but it feels good. I created a project, the Wicked Soap Company. The students learn about making soap. They learn about neutralization reactions. We learn about the pH scale. It's that iterative process, the physical act of making the soap, where you're mixing up the oils, mixing up the lye. It's analyzing your results and seeing what worked and what didn't, and trying it again in hopes of improving it.
We're able to work on documents together and all collaborate.
We've been able to learn more business strategies to be able to get our name out there.
Every bit of money that we get, we either put back into the company or give back to the community. We've given away soap to organizations in need. We've given away scholarships to students that really need it.
Matt teaches chemistry his own way. It's nothing like any other class I've been in.
I'm inspired when I see students have that light bulb turn on. They're into it.
So I share this video for many reasons. I think this is a really awesome example of what's possible when kids are involved in creative projects and have opportunities to collaborate and do things that are meaningful, but also in the spirit of our focus today on growth. That teacher is my amazing husband, and I have known him since he was a beginning teacher when we taught together in Hawaii. And he was a teacher who shared, He was kind of over teaching at one point because he was just sick of moving kids through curriculum, and he felt really uninspired and knew they were also. And fast forward 8 years in a new environment and new possibilities where he's trusted and he's inspired and he is able to work with awesome colleagues who are also pushing his own thinking. He's now really inspired and is so able to, and so he loves thinking about what he can do with kids and creating these cool projects. And he's more invested as a teacher and of course, doing awesome things for kids. And so often we talk about equity. And I shared that example earlier about the book and equity because for all kids. And really this is equality. Everyone gets the same thing. And as a mom, I know I've shared about Abby and Zach. They are two very different humans. If I raised them and said, nope, you both get the same thing no matter what, I wouldn't be doing what's best for them. And I wouldn't be helping them grow as individuals. And so this shift from equality to equity is helping people all get to the same level. And that's an important shift to think about. And I think that's a conversation that's important. And so this is an image that comes from George Couros and Katie Novak's book, Innovate Inside the Box, which is an awesome resource. But I think the most important piece for me is this next image. And when it's moving from just focusing on equality to expert learning, which is really where we focus on not just everyone getting to that one same bar, but everyone getting what they need and learning in different ways, being able to show their learning in a way that elevates who they are. And so this is when we focus on needs, we also promote equity, but we also empower individuals to do awesome things and find their own path, right? If we are only trying to get kids to the narrow view of success that we believe is important, that, you know, if that's our focus on equity, I think we're missing the point. We want to help kids find out who they are and really grow in powerful ways. So this is an awesome resource. If you haven't read this book, I would also recommend it. I know I've been sharing lots of good books, but I stand on the shoulders of giants who have really helped me shift my own thinking, and I'm grateful. So another book, the How to Be an Anti-Racist, Ibram X. Kendi, awesome book, especially right now. It's a really great book to shift our thinking. But what he says is what if we realize the best way to ensure an effective education is not by standardizing curricula in a test, but by standing the opportunities available to all students. And this is really, how do we create opportunities for all kids, not just a narrow set of kids that we believe are capable, but creating opportunities for all kids so that they see that they're all capable of doing amazing things. So to do this, we have to challenge the status quo. We, again, as we talked about, our systems have been in place for over 100 years. Our systems were designed for standardization and efficiency. Our systems were not designed to empower individual learners. And that means you, we, all of us get to do the important work of challenging these systems and really looking at what's possible for kids. And that means we're going to face some pushback. We're going to face people say that that's not the way we've always done it. But if we're focusing on kids and we're focusing on learners, then we can continue to push for what's right and what's possible. So this is the women's US team who have inspired so many of us. But what I think is really cool, when I was reading Abby Wambach's book, Wolfpack, she talks about how this women's team was never allowed to play in the big stadiums that men were allowed to play in, because everyone said they couldn't raise enough money, they wouldn't draw the crowds. And so that's just not the way the system was set up. And that's just not what was going to happen. And so these women believed that they were capable and they believed that they could draw the crowds. So they went on this grassroots effort to go stop by and talk to kids, connect. They have stories about stopping the bus and going to a soccer tournament and talking to kids and getting them excited about women's soccer. And they did get people excited. They started this movement and got people invested in them, and they were winning and kicking butt and doing amazing things because they're an amazing team. And so their final game, they did play in the Rose Bowl Stadium, and it was attended by 90,000 people. But it wasn't because those people in charge let them do it. They had to push and break down barriers and systems so that they could be able to prove that they could do that. And so Abby Wambach says, there was suddenly new rules to the game written by those women, but only because a bunch of visionaries had the courage to break the old ones. And I think that that is something so important, is we collectively have to break those barriers. And I'm not talking about not being a good teacher or being non-compliant, but really thinking about, if you know that there is a better way and you know that there's something that you can do for kids, not letting old ways, old practices, or even your neighbor teacher who doesn't think that's right hold you back, because you do know that there's a better way. So there's this notion again that we just have to be a good teacher, and teachers are typically very compliant. A friend of mine has said that there's a reason, I'm sure there's quoted somewhere, there's a reason that teachers have discounts on their insurance policies, right? Because they stay in the lanes, they follow the rules. But sometimes to be an effective educator, we have to stop being compliant employees. And this is thinking about how we can shift our practices based on the kids in front of us, not the policies set from a central office who don't know your kids and don't know your context. And so, I was sitting with a group of teachers a while back, and we were talking about new ways to teach, and we were all excited and these projects that they wanted to do. And after we had all this time planning, two of the teachers said, well, this is super cool, but we can't do it. I mean, I like talking about it, but we can't do it. And I said, why? And they're like, oh, this is not in our curriculum. We have a pacing guide. We're not allowed to deviate. And another teacher next to him said, I do. I always, if I know there's a better way, then I have to be able to do that. And then I go talk to my principal. I talk to my team and bring them in and tell them why they're doing it. It's not, let's stop closing our doors and faking it. Let's open our doors. Let's talk to people and show them why we're doing things differently, and show them the impact on kids. Doing things and letting kids do whatever you want and having a big maker space and kids running all over the place just because you want them to and it looks fun is not what I'm talking about. That's effective learning. If there's structures and ways kids are learning and they're creating towards a learning goal and towards something important, then we are showing the impact we have on kids. And I think that's something that's really important. Shift practices, but also be willing to show evidence of what you're doing and the impact on kids. So one of the things we need to challenge, and I'll put this out there, I am not a fan of homework as a mom, was never a fan of homework as an educator. And when I saw this quote from Josh Stumpenhorst, I thought that this is why. So many people are talking about how we shouldn't be grading learning during this distance learning because it's not equitable, right? So how is homework then, if that's our case, how is homework ever equitable when we're sending kids home with different contexts, different environments, different resources and access? How is that equitable, especially if you're grading it and holding kids accountable? Think about how that pushes on and separates kids. When I was teaching 7th grade, I knew that very quickly I saw that when I was looking at homework, it quickly showed haves and have-nots and impacted their grades. And I thought, I'm not doing this anymore because it's not setting my kids up for success. So another thing we need to push back on is the curriculum. And Lisa Delpit says, if the curriculum we teach does not connect in positive ways to the culture young people bring to school, it's doomed to fail. So we have to be looking closely at our libraries. We have to be looking closely at our bias in our text, in our resources. We have to be looking at who are the kids in front of us and and what do they need? What are the learning goals? And how do we bring in their interests, their culture, their the things they want to learn about, so that we can, and we also need to expand those, but we need to start with who they are and build on their strengths, not assume that kids' culture and home life are deficits. And this Jamar Lee, a student that I had the opportunity to work at a conference with, super amazing young man. And what he said has stuck with me for so long. Stop trying to figure out if I am smart and start understanding how I am smart. And this, I think, sums up so many different things that we've talked about in the last couple of days, but we are all brilliant. And I think one of the what ifs, what if kids felt brilliant every single day? And this is what Jamar is saying. They are brilliant in many different ways, but we have to broaden our view of success to help them see that and help them achieve that every day. So Brene Brown, one of my favorites, she reminds us that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. And it is vulnerable to put yourself out there and to examine your bias and to realize that you're never going to attain this idea of perfectionism, and to challenge authority. And, you know, those are things that are very, very vulnerable and hard, but we will never create meaningful change in our schools, in our communities, in our world, if we aren't experiencing vulnerability and we aren't pushing for innovation, creativity, and change. This video, you may have seen it, but it kind of speaks to what this is all about. So,
graduating high school is a big thing.
Oh, it certainly is. If you're not really sure that's true, just watch this story. Here's News 4's Terry Bolger.
DJ not graduated!
Tears plus cheers equals success. Dontrell Spencer didn't learn that in math class. No, there he learned algebra, geometry, and pre-calculus. That's why he's screaming and hugging his diploma.
I got my diploma, and it just showed, it made me so happy, and my tears, it was just tears of joy to me.
Dontrell's graduation parade at Pearl Cone was a celebration of overcoming.
Thank you.
It was so many times I wanted to give up on high school, though.
His grandma, his inspiration, died recently and never saw this moment.
And I just got on the rooftop of the car and said I did it. And, you know, I felt like my granny was looking at me. And I yelled I did it because I was telling my granny I did graduate for you.
Miss Gleason, I graduated! Miss Gleason!
And wasn't about to forget his teacher, Miss Gleason.
Stop the car.
Got out of the car to make clear her importance to him.
He started ninth grade, and that was also her first year here at Pearl-Cohn. So they've kind of grown up through Pearl-Cohn together.
No plans yet for what's next. Just happy to enjoy this for a while.
I got it!
Terry Bolger, News 4, Nashville.
It's really hard not to tear up during that video. I was going to say, I watched that and I thought, I just get emotional seeing how impactful his teacher is on him. And when he says, Miss Gleason, I made it, that moment is just a reminder of all of your students and how impactful you are as a teacher to each of them and their trajectory in life. And he knows his teacher helped him make it, and so grateful. This is, a time of year when there's lots to be celebrated, but also lots of change. And so this was yesterday when, after I left you yesterday, we went to Abby's 5th grade promotion, and it was different than we expected, like many other kids. And you see the kid in the video, he's also in his car. We can't have graduations like normal, but it didn't change how happy Abby was. This was a picture of her after she had just gotten these gifts from her teacher. She had gotten hugs from her teacher, and she felt so special and celebrated because it's been an amazing journey. And I am just so grateful for all of the educators who have shifted so much in the last couple months. And a reminder that when we focus on learners and learning, we look for solutions. And there's no better testament to that than seeing all of our graduations retooled, the remote learning experiences, the way that people have shifted to connect online and connect with kids, create that community. It's because we're looking at learners and learning that we've done those things, not because we were focused on a test that didn't exist this year, like many people think. And so that reminder continues to be what's possible when we keep focusing on kids and focusing on why we do the work that we do. So I'm going to end the way that I started, is that I truly believe that there is good in this world, and to achieve it and to see it, we each have to be the good. And so I just want to thank you for the opportunity to spend the last couple of days with you. I have loved seeing your comments, and I go back and read all of them and look at them on Twitter. And I'm just so grateful to be connected to this awesome group. And I know that you're going to have some great sessions today. So thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. Take time to recharge, but also stay focused on how you can be the good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. I have a quick question for you, so I'm putting you on the spot here. We had a few people ask in the chat, and it has me thinking about something cool we could maybe do, but could you possibly give us a book list, like it's like Oprah's book club, but with Dr. Martin instead? Maybe we could do like an InnEdCO book club with you.
Of course. I have been wanting to put together, I've been reading so many great books and podcasts. So I'll put together kind of my favorites. Happy to do that. Yeah.
Perfect. I don't think there's, enough good books in the world. So you can always have time to read, right? Especially now. So, well, thank you very much. We're so glad you were here all week. We definitely feel sad you're not going to be here tomorrow too, but so feel free to join us. So we won't stop you.
On a side note, Katie, I'm glad we got to see your husband today.
Oh, good.
We see your kids, yesterday and the day before. I was wondering about your husband, so I'm glad we got to meet him today. So
good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So just as a quick reminder, so today we're going to keep talking about growth. It was great to hear Katie talk about growth of different students, and you'll have the opportunity to learn about especially growth during the pandemic. So we have 2 session options for you. We'll have building community and connections in a digital world, and I believe Linda is emceeing that one.
Yep.
So, and then we have Christine Shine emceeing the second option, which is student-centered learning and design thinking in a digital environment. Again, both of those links to those Google Meets will be on our website at bit.ly/InnEdCO2020. So make sure to head over there in a few minutes, and it looks like we'll be able to start on time today. So we might want to give you a couple extra minutes just to go warm up that coffee and stuff like that. So
I'll see y'all in the session.
So yeah, and then just a few quick tips. Don't forget to mute your mics as you jump in. No need for video. You can definitely turn on your video and your audio in the reflection sessions afterwards. But let's make sure that the presenters, and especially like Melanie, again, our amazing sign language interpreter from the Sign Language Network, we're so happy to have her. I feel like we have to invite her to our conference in person next summer. So we're going to figure out a way to get you there. So, and then just if you had Grid View installed, we ask that you uninstall it because Google now has embedded all of those features into its platform. So you no longer need that. So, and as always, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We've had such great chatter on YouTube Live. We're so excited to have you all here. And we'll be giving out more prizes later. So thank you so much for joining us.
And one thing we discovered about Grid View is if you turn it off, you'll see the presentation better. So
thank you very much. Thank you, Katie, again, and we'll see you in the sessions.